What's up everybody? So today I'm going to go over my top 10 favorite new coasters that I've ridden for the first time in 2019. This is the first time I've done a video like this, but I've been planning on doing this pretty much the entire summer, so here we go. And at first I wanted to make this video just about the favorite coasters that I've done in 2019, but there were a few regular rides that really stuck out to me, so I wanted to throw them on this list too. So this is a top 10 rides, not a top 10 coasters. Just want to clarify that real quick. Alright, number 10 would be the Orlando Star Flyer at Icon Park in Orlando, Florida. Normally I hate sky swings, like I am terrified of them, and this is literally the tallest one in the world. I think it's at 400 feet tall, which is ridiculous. So before boarding onto this ride, my heart was just racing like crazy. I was just scared beyond belief to do this ride. This ride turned out being like the best balance of terrifying but yet exhilarating, and it just gives you a stellar view of the Orlando area. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, the first few times I rode this thing, I was scared beyond belief. I was terrified, especially the first time, just going up higher and higher, and you just kept going higher, and I thought that I was at the top, but I was only like halfway up the tower. It was just terrifying at first. Another thing that stood out to me was the lighting package on this thing. The lights are so cool on this ride. I've never seen a lighting package like this on anything, honestly, and literally everything is illuminated with some kind of light. Even this chair that you're sitting in has flashy lights and everything. The entire tower going up, completely illuminated. It looks so cool at night. Alright, number 9 would be Full Throttle at Six Flags Magic Mountain. So most people would think that this is kind of a weird one to put on a top 10 list, but I wanted to put this one on the list because it really surprised me. I didn't really know what to expect going on to this ride. I didn't really know much of it other than it had a giant loop, and that looked pretty cool, and it launched right into it. That's about all that I knew about the ride. One thing I'm very guilty of is that I don't do research about parks or coasters that I'm going to for the very first time. I like to just go into something for the first time, not know what to expect whatsoever, and just go for it. I don't want to do research and like know what the layout's like, what's going to happen, everything. I want it to all be a surprise when I'm on the ride itself. But Full Throttle really blew my expectations away, because after the loop it did a few cool things that I just didn't know were going to happen. Like when you stop in the tunnel, and when we stopped, I wasn't expecting that first of all. So I was expecting, okay, we're just going to go forward again, but it launched backwards, which pretty cool. You don't often see backward launches like that. I will say the only part that this ride kind of fell short on was the very last hill when you go over the loop, and then the ride just abruptly ends and this trim's going like halfway down that hill. They could have added much more after that, so I was a little bit disappointed about that, but other than that, this ride was still super fun, really blew my expectations away, so that's why it's number 9 on my list. Number 8. Falcons Fury at Busch Gardens, Tampa, Florida. I normally do not like free falls at all. I've just always been terrified of them, honestly. Just no different than sky swings, really. This is like a free fall to the extreme. Not only are you free falling 335 feet, but you're doing it facing straight down. Like the carts go like this, and you are facing straight down to the ground when you drop. Who thought this was a good idea? Because I want to give them a medal, because that is a stupid, brilliant idea. I love it. Like, I can't get over my face the very first time I rode it. Put that clip in right now. Holy crap. But the things going through my mind are just things that I just shouldn't say in this video. Let's just leave it at that. And I would say it's a very similar sensation that you get on a B&M dive coaster, because it's kind of the same motions that you get on that kind of... What the heck is going on here? Ryan. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, not this guy again?
Hello, Ryan. It's me, Falcons Fury. It's been a while. Come back to me.
Dude, I'm not going back to Florida yet. It's too far away from me.
You will come back to Florida now.
Okay, no, we are not doing this hypnotism crap. I'm turning this thing off right now. Alright, computer's off, so I shouldn't have to worry about him coming back again. Alright, back to reality. Number 7 on my list would be Phoenix at Knoebels. So this was actually my very first visit ever at Knoebels. I've always wanted to go there, and it's not terribly far from me, so I'm not sure why it took me so long to get there, but I finally visited Knoebels. So when I first looked at the ride, I just thought, really? That's it? Why does this ride get so much hype about being the best wooden coaster on earth? So I rode back row on this ride for the very first time, and it was love at first ride for me. I mean, I loved this ride so much. This ride definitely lives up to the hype that it gets. I mean, this thing is just an airtime machine, and for an old classic wooden coaster, you just wouldn't expect this ride to give you the airtime that it gives you. It's just constantly ejector airtime after ejector airtime hill. It's just insane. I got to ride it a few times the day I was at Knoebels. I did front row and a few middle rows too, and honestly, wherever you sit on this ride, you get so much airtime on it. There's not a bad seat on this ride. Alright, number 6 on my list is Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This year was my first time ever going to Kennywood as well, and going to Kennywood for the first time, it's a very quirky but very fun park. A very similar feel to how Knoebels is, but just a little bit bigger. But Phantom's Revenge was just a very unique ride for me. One thing that really stood out to me about this ride is how smooth it was. The retracking that Morgan did in this thing was excellent. It was smooth as butter the entire ride. It's also an airtime monster too. Whether you sit in the front row or the back row, you're going to get a lot of airtime on this thing. The lap bar restraints with the seatbelt, it's just a minimal restraining system, and it just allows for the most airtime that you can possibly get in this ride. And one thing I will never forget about this ride is a night ride on this thing. I don't scare easy on coasters. A night ride on Phantom's Revenge, I was terrified for a few bits of it, especially the second hill going down into the valley. It is pitch black, you can't see a thing and where you are going, and you were just going right down at full speed. It is a surreal experience. If you have not ridden Phantom's Revenge at night, definitely do it. Do it in the front row too. It is terrifyingly beautiful. One thing I've always wondered though is that seeing that a lot of aero coasters are being closed down or being torn apart because of maintenance issues and everything, I wonder if it would be possible for Morgan to do more retrackings of older unpopular aero coasters, because they did a fantastic job with Phantom's Revenge. So I would love to see like what they could do with other unpopular aero coasters, if they could do a similar treatment to it or not. I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but just kind of curious about that. Alright, number 5 on my list would be Maverick at Cedar Point. This ride is simply a work of art. I fell in love with this thing just by watching it off-ride before I even rode the ride. So being a Hershey Park fanatic, I would say that Maverick is a combination of Fahrenheit, Sky Rush, and Storm Runner all into one coaster. Because you got the launching aspect like Storm Runner, you got the beyond vertical degrees and multiple inversions like Fahrenheit, then you stay low to the ground, and going through all those very snappy, quick transitions like Sky Rush does. But this ride is just awesome intensity throughout the entire ride, especially the second half after that fast launch. Holy crap, it is such a forceful ride. And what did suck though is that my very first ride on Maverick, I was assigned the front row, and just a few seconds before we dispatched, it started to pour down rain. But they let us go anyway. That was not fun. But fortunately, I was able to get more rides on Maverick and also do more rides on the front row when it was not raining, so I was able to enjoy the ride eventually, but my first ride on it was a rather painful experience. Alright, number 4 would be Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. And this was another ride that was kind of unassuming to me. I just looked at it and I'm like, okay, it's just another B&M Hyper. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love B&M Hypers with a passion. They're one of my favorite types of coasters. I didn't think there would be anything special to Mako that would make it stand out among other B&M Hypers that I've ridden before. But I was proven wrong pretty quickly. The first hill on the back row, you get forced out of your seat. I just love that when you get forced out of your seat on the first hill like that. And the entire ride, it's just an airtime machine. It is one of the smoothest rides I've ever been on in my life. And it has just a bunch of fun elements to this thing too. The hammerhead turnaround is awesome. You got a speed hill and multiple camelback airtime hills and some twists and everything at the end of the ride. I rode this thing 10 times when I visited SeaWorld that day. Every single time I was smiling and laughing the entire ride. I could ride this ride all day and never get sick of it. I absolutely loved this ride. As of right now, this is my current favorite B&M Hyper. And I've also heard that Candemonium at Hershey Park is going to be very similar to Mako, so that makes me even more excited for Candemonium to be opening up this year. Another cool thing about this, and the other coasters at SeaWorld did this too, that there's a soundtrack to the ride. Starting at the station when you dispatch and then going up the lift hill, there's a soundtrack that plays along and it's timed to when you go over the top of the hill. That's just a cool extra layer that just adds to the ride experience. Alright, number 3 would be Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm. This was my very first Gerstlauer coaster ever. I've never experienced anything like this, so I had no clue what to expect when I was going onto this ride for the first time. The first surprise to me on this ride was the top section of the first hill, when you're at a steep angle and it just holds you there for a second. From ground level, looking at that, it doesn't look like it's a very steep incline. But when you're on the ride, it's pretty steep and it just dangles you there for a while, and it's just a cool little extra element to it. Then the beyond vertical drop was very fun, and then all the inversions on this ride, you go through them pretty slowly, which I love slow inversions personally. And then a few pops of airtime. This ride was just pure fun for me. Another cool thing about this ride is the lighting package on it. The lighting package is just so fun to watch because it like interacts with the trains as it's going through the layout. And that is just so cool how they time it like that. If I had time, I could have just stared at this ride for hours, just watching the lighting package on this thing. Alright, number 2 on my list would be Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. This ride is just evil, and I love everything about it. This ride is unlike anything I have ever experienced in my life. After that 305-foot tall drop going right into that turn, every single time I gray out on it, but that's a beautiful thing though. All the snappy transitions and turns, it is just insane. After riding it for the first time, I had to take a few minutes to de-escalate before I could even feel my reaction to the ride, because my body was just like uncontrollably shaking, and I just couldn't even hold the camera still because I had such an adrenaline rush going through me after riding this thing for the first time. And if the ride isn't crazy enough during the day, a night ride in this thing, this is the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life on a coaster. It is pitch black, you cannot see a thing. Even the first hill is pretty much pitch black. The only time that you have a little bit of light is the first airtime hill after that sharp turn. The rest of the ride you are in pitch black darkness. And doing this on the front row at night, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like you're on a fighter jet at night. Wind going in your face and you're just being thrown in every direction. It's just utter madness. And it's crazy to think that this thing is turning 10 years old this year too, because this thing has aged wonderfully. It's still very smooth. At least the times that I've ridden it, I've never felt any rattle to it whatsoever. So for a 10-year-old coaster, it's pretty good. Alright guys, we are at the end of the list, but before I mention my number 1 coaster of the year, I do want to make one honorable mention though, and you may have seen the cup right here. It would be Steel Curtain at Kennywood. This almost made the list. This would have been like number 12 or 11 on my list, but didn't quite make it to top 10. So Steel Curtain was a very fun ride, and it's cool that it has the most inversions in North America. But there were a few things about this ride that kind of turned me away from it. I mean, both times I was at Kennywood, they only had one train operating on the thing, and I just feel like the Kennywood opened this ride way earlier than they should have. They should have done much more intensive testing on the thing before opening it. I know that they were behind schedule with this ride, and they wanted to open this thing for the 2019 season. That's fine, I get that. But I just feel like that the operations on this thing could have been done a little bit better. And also, one thing that really took away from the ride experience on me on this thing was there's a constant vibration throughout the entire ride. So I got to ride twice this year. I got to ride back row and third row, I believe. And it's not really a rattle to it. It's just an unsettling vibration that is constant throughout the entire ride. I'm trying to enjoy the ride, but my mind is just focusing on this constant vibration that's going on. It's super unique. It looks like something that I would have built from like a K'NEX coaster when I was a kid. But it's really cool to see something like that. It fits the part perfectly because it's definitely a quirky coaster, and that kind of fits the theme with Kennywood. So it's a good match for the park for sure. But if you have not ridden Steel Curtain yet, definitely give it a shot. But just expect to wait 4 hours. Alright, we've made it to number 1 on my list. And this may be a little cliche, but it's just the honest truth for me. Number 1 for 2019 would be Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Seriously, have you ridden this thing? Have you ridden this ride?
Yes, I have.
The ejector airtime that you get in this thing, it is ungodly. There are times where it was like 10 seconds of sustained airtime. I've never felt anything like that before in my life. And this ride gives you no time to think. It's just one crazy element after the other. The pacing on this thing is beautiful. You have no time to think to yourself. It's just throwing one thing at you after the other. It's just constant at you. Another thing is that this is a long ride too. When I rode this thing for the first time and we got to the mid-course brake run, I'm like, oh my god, there's more? And even after the mid-course brake run, there's still a lot of speed, and you're just flying through every element that you're going through. And this is obviously a back row coaster for me, because the airtime that you get, especially on that first hill, I have never been forced out of my seat so violently in my life. But it was a beautiful thing. Well, there you have it, guys. That is my top 10 favorite rides that I've ridden for the first time in 2019. What were some of your favorite rides that you rode for the first time this past year? Comment down below. I want to see what you guys have done this year. So this being my first top 10 video, what do you guys think? Should I do a few more of these things? Any other video ideas or comments, feedback, constructive criticism, anything? Just comment down below what you guys think. My ears are always open, and always just happy to hear other people's opinions. Alright guys, I've wrapped the video up here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next loop. See you guys.
Goodbye.
Oh my god, will this guy stop haunting me? Come on, get out of here. Oh hell no, I'm out of here.